Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So before we get into today's topic, just a really quick update on what's going on with me. We finally got Christmas cleaned up. We were all sick, as I had mentioned last week during the week of Christmas. So then I had to go back to work right after New Year's Day. So this weekend, we finally got everything packed up and put away. So it feels really good to have that done. And now we can kind of move on with the rest of winter. Another little thing, my youngest daughter, I mentioned she got her driver's license a couple of weeks ago. So she drove in my car for the first time by herself, took it just for like a little test drive around the neighborhood. So that was pretty nerve-wracking, but I'm glad she did it because it was just like she hadn't driven by herself yet. And she actually said it was nicer to drive by herself because she didn't have to hear someone constantly telling her, do this, do that, whatever. So all my kids now are driving. It's crazy. But anyway, as far as loving lately, the only thing I could really think of right now is the new socks that I got for Christmas. It's just really nice to put on a brand new pair of socks like every single day for a while until you get through them all once. So that's been kind of nice. I always love getting socks for Christmas. So I know it's pretty simple, but it's just something that I really love getting. I love good, like brand new comfy socks. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about reestablishing routines in the new year. It takes really hard work to establish great routines, and sometimes, figuring out the right order and timing to do something to make it work best for you definitely takes effort. And a lot of times it takes a lot of trial and error to get those routines down really well. But then what happens sometimes is we get it all figured out. We have a great routine, makes a huge difference in our lives, and then something happens that causes it to get lost. Usually when like a change in our life occurs. And that can be something as simple as the holiday season, getting sick, whatever is going on. But right now, like for me, for an example, we had the holidays and then we also got sick. So it was kind of like a double hit on that with the routines. When we have like a holiday or some kind of change going on, like especially like a more like not like really just a short holiday, but kind of like the holiday season where you have go from Thanksgiving all the way through to New Year's, and routines are just different. You might be eating differently. You're taking time to shop and do other events that would be time you would have probably spent on other things, and possibly time that you would have been using for certain routines. It can kind of be difficult sometimes to get back to those routines when we lose that rhythm that we had going before whatever the change that happened was. But like I said, today we're kind of talking about after the new year, because I think for a lot of people, getting through the holidays can kind of cause us to kind of let go some of our routines just due to the nature of all the extra stuff that's happening. So it's good to kind of just get back on track. So just because it's difficult to get back to those routines that we had at a certain time, all is not lost. It just takes a little bit of discipline to get our great routines back or get even better ones in place. So sometimes it can be difficult to kind of get back into our routines because you can sometimes feel overwhelmed. When our routines are really important to help keeping us orderly, to help keeping things orderly in our lives. And it can feel a little bit overwhelming if we've let them slip. Sometimes we might feel like we have to get caught up and we don't know where to begin or how we'll even have time to do it. But the most important thing is just really not to try to focus on getting caught up. Just focus on what you can actually do. Do the things that you can do what you can do, and then the things will start to fall back in place. It just might take a little bit of time. But if you let yourself get overwhelmed, that can cause you to procrastinate, which is going to get you nowhere. So rather than focusing on getting caught up, really just try to focus on getting started where you can, and then doing what you can, and then just kind of take it from there. If we have to skip our routines a few times, it's usually pretty easy to get right back into them. But when it goes on for a longer period of time, like I said with the holiday season, it can be more difficult to get back into the routines that you had in place before. And then, especially if you don't remember exactly what those routines were, it can cause you to kind of hesitate because you're not sure exactly what you were doing and you might wind up procrastinating because of that. But your routine does not have to be exactly the same as you had it before. Don't let that hold you up. Just start a new routine. Don't forget that you didn't always have those great routines in place that you had. You, at one point in time, had to start from scratch. So there's no reason you can't do it again. You might even end up liking your new routine better than the old one that you had. So if you get hung up on getting back to the exact routine that you had before, it can kind of just put you back further because it can cause you to delay until you kind of figure that out. So don't let that hold you back. Just start something new. And then if the one you had in the past was really the greatest routine, you'll probably end up leading back to that anyway. And if it wasn't, you'll probably end up with something even better. And another thing that's really important is that, sometimes when we can feel overwhelmed, like I was saying, it can be a little bit difficult to jump right back in. So it's important to kind of know what your minimums are before you start trying to create this lengthy routine that accomplishes many tasks at once. It's better to just start by focusing on the minimums that must be done on a daily basis. And the minimums are kind of those things that need to get done no matter what else is going on. You might have daily minimums and weekly minimums. So for example, my daily minimums are things like doing the dishes, feeding the animals, cooking dinner. Now, of course, dishes and dinner could be skipped if needed, but not in the long term. So they basically do need to get done daily. My weekly minimums are cleaning our guinea pig cage, doing the laundry, and watering my plants. So I have daily minimums and weekly minimums. So in the weekly list, again, laundry could be skipped if needed. But again, it's going to have to get done pretty soon or you're going to run out of clothes. So it's kind of like those things that really just have to be done. There's really no putting them aside. And if you can identify those minimums, you can start a routine to cover just those minimums if you're having a rough time kind of figuring out where to focus to get yourself back on track. So if you tell yourself you just have to get those things done and that's it, you can feel accomplished and at least you're getting some good basic routines in place. And then that can help build momentum to get your old routines back or, like I said, even better ones. Routines are so important because they reduce the amount of decisions that we have to make each day. It's kind of like when you get ready in the morning. You know the exact order you're going to wash your hair, brush your teeth, and so on. You don't sit there thinking about what you should do next. You just kind of move from one thing to the next. So that's the same thing with establishing these routines. They create an order to do certain tasks so that we can move quickly from one thing to the next without having to spend a lot of time on making decisions in between each tasks. So just because you may have fallen out of a routine that you had in place, don't give up on getting back to them because it really does make a big difference in our lives and how our days flow. So just take it slow, try something new if you need to, and try to make your routines fun if you can. If it's the type of thing that you're doing that you can either add in like an audiobook or put something on the TV, it always helps to kind of make routines enjoyable and you don't maybe won't kind of hesitate doing a little bit more as you can. And then, of course, what helps me most with pretty much almost everything that has to do with productivity or doing these things that we have to do in our lives, I always really try to remind myself about prioritizing progress over perfection, because no matter what, it's always better to be making progress on something than to delay taking any action by waiting for the time when you feel like you can get it done perfectly. So if all feels lost with your routines, really just focus on trying to start something small, make some progress, and then keep making progress. It's going to get you to where you want to be in the end, and it's just going to take a little bit of time. But don't hesitate because you don't have the perfect way to do it or you're not doing everything that you wanted to do. It's better to get those minimums done and then build from there rather than try to sit there and figure out exactly the best way to do everything and then you're not getting anything done in the meantime. So here is to a new year full of new and improved routines. And I hope that this episode motivated you to get back if you did have trouble sticking with your routines during the holiday season, as I know I did. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.